Okay, so the first thing we need is to bring the layers that we are gonna work with for this webinar. So to start, I have Copper Hill Regional Geology on my screen, which is part of our training data, and I'm gonna bring a couple more tables. I'm gonna bring my tenements. I'm also going to bring my structural data. I'm also going to bring a raster grid from my GrandMag. And if you notice, the GrandMag has a different icon compared to the other tables. This is because it's a raster grid. And because it's an image, remember that MapInfo Pro considers a raster grid as an image. There are a couple of things I can do with this one. And the first one is to, well, in terms of the layering order, is to bring in on top of the regional geology so I can appreciate it. And once I have done that, if I double click the rainbow icon and I click this, or I tick this box where it says transparent, and I go to select color, if I click on any of the area where the background is white, what it will do is it will take anything within that image that is white, make it transparent. And I can also increase the translucency. I'll make it 62, and click OK. That looks better. Now, if I zoom in, I can appreciate that there is a low MAC anomaly that is somehow following this geological unit, which is an Ordovician granitoid. So, because we're geologists, we want to test or investigate what is going on there. And for that, I'm planning to drill 6 RC holes. And I'm gonna bring a layer called Copper Hill targets where my color points are. And what I want to do with that is first to display the labels by going to my Explorer and click Automatic Labels on. Now, if I right click and I go to Layer Properties and I go to the second tab, Layer Display, I can increase the size, and if I double click Font, I can put a halo. Also, I can go to Label and Rules and give it an offset so it's not on top of the point. That looks better. Another thing that I can do, if I go to the Discover ribbon, Output, Labels, Label Angles, I can give it an angle like 45 and it will look something like that. Now with my tenement, I want to change the border color and give it a background color, maybe white per se. So I'm gonna right click and go to Layer Properties, and this time I'm gonna go to Layer Display. I'm gonna click Style Override, which is just overriding any previous style. I'm gonna double click this symbol and go here, solid, white, and the border is going to be solid, black. I'm just going to increase the pixel size to 3, click OK. And before clicking OK, I just want to increase the translucency. In this case, I'm going to make it something around 76. That's okay. That looks good. One more thing before moving into our layout view is I have structural data, but it's all displayed with the same color, with the same symbology. And if I open the table, right-click Browse Table, I can see that I have different attributes. So I have faults, I have anticline, syncline, thrust faults, and trends. So how can I differentiate these? Well, within MapInfo Discover, we have more than one alternative or more than one option to create thematic maps. And this is a whole topic itself. I can speak about that for hours, but because this webinar is focused on creating maps, I'm just going to show you one of the ways, which is probably the quickest one. But I would like to mention that depending on your data type, you would like to use different workflows. So again, for this one, I'm just going to use a quick one, which is part of MapInfo. So if I go to Map and I click Add Team, I'm going to go to Individual, and then where it says Template Name, I'm going to pick Line Individual Value Default and click Next. It's asking me which is the table you want to use, which is Copper Hill Structure, and which is the field you want to use, which is structure. I'm just going to go Next, and it's assigning a default style to each of the attributes within my table, and it's counting them. So I'm happy with that. The only thing that I want to change is the fold color, because it's green and it's going to be hard to appreciate on the map. So I'm going to go to Styles, click Fold, double click Style, and change this to red, and click OK. We can also change the pixel, the width of the pixel, but I'm going to leave it as it is. And then I'm going to make the anticline orange. And click OK. And click OK. And OK. That looks better. It's giving you the legend here, but we're going to close this one because we don't need it for now. Once I'm happy with the way my map looks, I'm going to proceed to create my layout. To do that, let's go to the Discover ribbon. And here, where it says Output, we have two options. We have Scale Output and we have Scale Layout. So most of you probably have heard about Scale Output, which is an historic tool and workflow to create layouts or professional maps. And it's really useful and powerful, but recently Discover MapInfo has launched a tool called Scale Layout. And the main difference between this one and Scale Output is that Scale Layout provides you a more intuitive workflow on how to create a professional map. In other words, it's going to guide you through each of the steps. It asks you for a title block and a map grid. And we're going to see what I mean in a minute. So I'm just going to go and click the drop-down menu for Scale Layout. And the first thing I notice is we have predefined templates depending on your paper size and on the display of your map, if it's going to be portrait or landscape, and the size of the map frame itself. For this one, I'm going to use the first one as default, which doesn't really matter for me because I can always go and resize my map frames. Now, I need to give it a name. And the paper size, I can change it as I want to, or if I want to. I'm just going to leave it as A4 and click OK. And as I mentioned, it's asking me of each of the elements I need for my map. So do I want a standard or a large title block? I'll go with standard and click OK. Now for the scale, we have two options. You can either go and pick one from the top-down menu, for example, 1 to 48,000 or 1 to 50,000. Or I can just zoom in and zoom out and apply a custom scale. So if I go here to custom, it will allow me to zoom in and out. Even if you don't have the custom option activated, it will still allow you to zoom in and zoom out. You just need to click apply and it will set that scale that you have at the moment. Okay, for this exercise, I'm just gonna go and pick 1 to 50,000. I'm just gonna center it. We're gonna speak about the map navigation in a couple of minutes. So I'm just gonna center that one. And the next step is to add a grid line. So if I click this, I have a few options. I can use the same as map projection, or I can click the drop-down menu and go to choose another, and it will send you to the choose projection wizard, where you can pick up any of the projections included with MapInfo Discover. I like to use this tool called favorites within the Discover ribbon, to save my favorite projections. So that way, every time I need to pick a projection that I frequently use, I don't need to scroll through the list. I'm just gonna click cancel because I want the same as the map. And for the grid line spacing, I'm gonna take use auto spacing and just accept the default, which is 5 by 5 centimeters, and click OK. Now just click OK. And it's gonna send me to the legend wizard. Now, the scale layout tool only allows you to display one layer on your legend. And because we have more than one layer and we want to display all of them, we are just gonna fit the system and assign a random layer and a random column, because we're gonna delete this and add a new one. So in other words, I'm just gonna pick the first one I can find and click OK. I'm just gonna fill the data here. Now, at the bottom we have title block logo. If I click that one, it's as easy as looking for the logo of my company within my computer, which in this case I have it here, and it's a PNG file, and just click open, and it's automatically added. As easy as that, and I just click OK. That's it. Now, as I mentioned, it just created a default legend, which we are going to delete and create a new one. But before proceeding into that, I just want to take a moment to speak about map navigation. So we have two main elements when we speak about this topic. And the first one is, we have the map frame, which is the frame around the map. And to activate that one, I just need to click once. And if you notice, probably it's hard to see within the Teams screen, but it's slightly thicker in terms of the border, and it's gonna show or display these nodes at the vertex. And that it's gonna allow me to resize the whole frame. I can resize it as I want. So I'm gonna make it as big as my paper. Now, if I want to resize or rescale my map, I need to activate my map window. And to do that, I double click inside, and now it's going to be blue. So if the border is blue, that means you are inside the map window. And if I move my mouse wheel in and out, I can resize it. Something like this. Another thing why this is important to keep in mind is because if I go to layout, the layout ribbon, if I am inside the map window, most of these tools or buttons which are related to the layout are going to be inactive. Now, if I click out and I click back, because I'm working with the map frame, which is part of my layout, now I can work with most of these. So just keep in mind that if you're ever working with your map and you can add a legend, or you can add a map, or you can insert a text, is because probably you have your map window active. Again, just to recap, double click is blue, it means you're inside the map window. One click is great, that means you are working with the map frame. Okay, now going back to the legend, I'm gonna click once the legend that we have created, and on my keyboard I'm just gonna press delete, which is going to delete the legend. I'm just gonna click yes, and now I'm gonna activate my frame. I'm gonna go to layout, legend, and the legend wizard is going to open. Now I just need to clean the layers that I don't need to see on my legend. For example, grid line, I'm gonna remove that one. And for Copper Hill structure, I have two layers. One is the one with the original data, and the other one is the one with the thematic map. So I'm just gonna bring the one that has the original data back, and click next. I'm just gonna delete that one and call this one legend and click next. Now for each of these MapInfo called legend frames, we can assign a title. We don't need to. We can assign a subtitle. Again, we don't need to. And we need to assign a style. What's the difference between unique map style and unique values in column? The way I like to explain it is, think about a layer that contains roads. And all these roads are just black lines. When you're training your map, all you want to display is a black line that says this is a road or road. In that case, you will go with unique map styles. In the case where you are working with thematic maps or symbology, you want to use unique values in column. So to better explain this, we're gonna go through each of these layers. So for Copper Hill targets, they are all blue dots. So I'm gonna go with unique map styles and I don't need a title. Now, for tenements, again, I don't need a title. And again, we can always modify these, so don't worry about the title and the subtitle, because we can always go back to each of these map frames and modify it, and we're gonna see that in a minute. We also want unique map style for this one. Now for Copper Hill Grand Mag, I need a title for this one because otherwise it might be room for confusion on what type of physical data it is. And for regional geology, this is where first I want to call it geology, and second, I want the symbology to be reflecting the I want the symbology to be reflecting the unique values on my data. So I'm gonna tick that one, and it's asking me, okay, which is the attribute or the column that you want to display, and it's going to be geology. And then for the label, what do you want to display, and also it's the geology. And now, lastly, I go to Copper Hill structure, and in this case, it doesn't even give me the chance to select because it's a thematic map, and it knows by default it needs to show the symbology. I'm just gonna click finish, and I get my legend. Now there are a couple of things that I need to fix here. The first one is I want to make my Grand Mag horizontal because by being vertical it's taking a lot of space. So I'm gonna go here and make it horizontal, and I also want to make the strip thinner, which is the thickness. So I can make this 12 and click OK. That looks better. Now another thing that I want to do with the geology. Within my map window, I don't have all these geological units included. Like I don't need to have the symbology for all of them because they are not all part of my map. So what I need to do is I need to interrogate my map window and understand which of these units have been used by my map, or which of these units are part of my map, in other words. So I'm gonna go to my map. I want to bring a view similar to the one I have in my layout, something like that. And I'm going to use a tool called Info. So if I right click anywhere within the map window and I go to Info, I can interrogate each of these polygons. And if I have a look at my Info window, I go to geology, and yes, this is a felt mega carbonaceous siltstone. Okay, what is that one? Mafic volcanic sandstone. Okay, what is that one? It's a porphyritic augite. Cool. And I'm making notes of each of these geological codes. So when I go and clean my legend, I know which ones are included and which ones I don't need to. So once I make my notes, I come back to my layout, and I'm gonna double click this one, and I'm going to bring my nodes, and I'm going to untick all the ones that are not included. For example, this one, this one, this one. This one, not this one. Fossily verdant limestone, yeah, I have that one. Not this one, not this one. Maybe composition, yes. Massive together, yes. I don't have that one. I have that one. I have pyroxene. I have that one. Cool. Now, what else can I do? I can decrease the height a bit of the symbology. And I'm happy with that. I'm gonna click OK. And that's how it's looking. Now I can resize this frame to make it thinner. And another thing that I want to do is, if you notice, each of these is an individual frame. So if I want to give it a background, I need to go right click, frame properties, and give it a background, which I can do, but then they will all be different sizes, and plus it's a lot of work. So what I can do is, I'm gonna go to layout and I'm gonna insert a frame, so new frame, and I'm gonna make it somehow the size of my legend. Now I'm gonna right click, frame properties, and double click this polygon where it says style, and for pattern I'm gonna go solid and make it white and click OK. For name I'm gonna delete the no content and then click OK. Now I just want to bring it to the back, so with the frame selected I right click, send to back, and now I need to bring this one to the back as well. So select the map frame, right click, send to back. That looks better. I just need to clean my legend more, so I'm just gonna zoom in. And a couple of things I want to do is Copper Hill Target is not the proper name, so I'm gonna select the frame and double click, and it's gonna bring me to the legend frame properties. And I don't need a title, neither a subtitle, but one thing I can do is where it says edit selected text, I can change this to just targets and click OK. Now for Copper Hill Tenements, first there is a typo, so I'm gonna double click it and delete that one and just call it Tenements. Tenement, because it's just one. And also the square is too big, so I can adjust the width to 23. That's better. I'm gonna bring my ground back here. Okay, and my structures are somewhere here, yes. I also need those ones. So I'm gonna make this a bit bigger, bring this one there. If you use the arrows on your keyboard, you can also make smaller steps when moving things than just using the mouse. I'll bring the ground back to the top. Now for these ones, same scenario. I want to modify a couple of things within this legend frame. So I'm gonna double click it, and first I just wanna call structures. The second one, there's one option at the top where it says toggle display of record count, because this specific legend includes a count of each of the attributes, so I don't need to see that. So I'm just gonna click that one and click OK. That looks cleaner. It's gonna go here. Bring that one. Okay. Now I need a title that says legend. So I'm gonna go to layout, insert text. I'm gonna click where I want it. I'm gonna type legend. And I'm just gonna bring it to the middle. Just making sure everything is in the right place. That's looking good. Now, one more thing that I want to do is I want to move my title block to the opposite corner. And to do that, I need to make sure that I select everything within my title block because it's an object comprising small like other objects. So it comprises squares and lines. So I just need to make sure I select everything. So I'm gonna position my cursor here and just draw a big square around it. And once everything is selected, I'm just gonna drag it here. That looks so good. Now I need a north arrow, and to insert a north arrow, I need to activate my map window. So I'm gonna double click it and I'm gonna go to map. Layout is a ribbon that you will be using for working with mostly frames and the layout itself. If you're working inside your map window, you will use map. So if I go to map and I click add to map and I go to north arrow, you will notice that your cursor changes from an arrow to a cross. Now, I want to speak a bit about what is the north arrow. The north arrow within MapInfo Pro Discover is a cosmetic object, which means first it lives on your cosmetic layer, and second is an object involving other objects. Similar case to the title block. So I recommend that before you decide where you want to draw your north arrow, you think about it and you select the position and the size that you want. You can still move it, but it just becomes challenging. So in this case, I know I want it here and I want it more or less the size of one of these quadrants. So I'm gonna position my mouse here and just click and drag it. And it's gonna open the north arrow window, and each of these numbers here correlates to one of each of the different styles that you can use. Just gonna go and use this one, the 50. And you also have a couple of options, like you can rotate the north arrow to match projection, or you can point the north arrow to top of map, depending on how is your workflow design. And you can also change the color by playing around with these buttons here. I'm just gonna click OK, and that's it. Now, we spoke about moving the north arrow, because I have received that question a couple of times. And the way we can move it is, first we need to remember that it lives within the map window, so I need to activate this one. Second, it is part of the layout, which is this grid line 005 on my Explorer window. That's my layout. The other one is my map window. So within my layout, I need to go to my cosmetic layer and make my cosmetic layer editable. Because remember, the north arrow lives on your cosmetic layer. Once I have done that, I'm gonna go to map and select. Click the drop-down menu and I'm gonna use the marquee selection tool. The only reason why I like to use this one is because that way I make sure that I'm selecting everything, every single item within that object. And I'm gonna get this little hand and I'm just gonna draw a square around it. That way I'm selecting everything, and I'm gonna go back to select and bring back my arrow. And now with this object in purple, I can move it wherever I want to. I'm gonna move it back, and you can also resize it by using the dots at the corners. Just make sure it's purple and everything is selected. Okay, once I'm happy with that, I'm just gonna bring it probably here. I'm just gonna click outside and turn off the editable of the cosmetic layer. And if I'm happy with that, I'm gonna proceed to one more thing that I wanna show you, which is how to insert a map overview. Now, to insert a map overview, first I need to bring Australia. So I'm gonna go to Home, Open Table, and look for a table called Australia. Okay, now I wanna turn it off because I don't need to see it within my map window. we need to go to Home, Tool Extensions, and find a tool that is not normally running within your ribbons. So in my case, I have it here because it's already running, but in your case, if you go to Register, look for a tool called Overview, and then just click Auto Load, and this one that says Load Tool. Once you have done that, it will be here as mine. So I need to select my map window, and then I'm gonna double click Overview, and it's gonna ask me pick a table to use as your overview. In this case, it's going to be Australia. I'm gonna click OK, and what it's doing is gonna link whatever is on my map within this overview window, and it's pointing out where this area exists within Australia. Same concept as the other windows. If I double click, I can zoom in and out, and I'm gonna be able to see Australia as a whole. I can make it bigger. The bigger I go, or the more I zoom out, the less I can appreciate the area because it's very small compared to the country. But that's okay. It's just for us to get an idea of the capability of this tool. So I'm gonna leave it something like that. I'm gonna click outside and I'm gonna bring it to the corner. One more thing that I can do is we add a default grid when we were creating this map where it's showing all the grid lines. So if you don't want to see those grid lines because it creates noise on your map, you can come here and hide that grid line. And then we are gonna go to Discover and we're gonna activate our map. Sorry, the frame. And we're gonna go to Map Grid and select Map Grid. And here, the wizard within Discover gives you more possibilities and more options to play around with the grid, with the labels, and with the lines. So I'm gonna go with Projection, Auto. For lines, I don't want the lines, I want edges. Then for the label size, I'm gonna go with 6, and I want it just at the left at the top. And I'm just gonna click OK. That looks better. Now I'm gonna click outside to see how my map is looking. That looks better, that looks cleaner. Now I need to resize this again. Okay. One more thing that I want to show you is same case as I add the legend text. You can add any text or object you want to your map. So if I go to layout and I activate my frame and I go to insert, we have options like insert an ellipse, rectangle, or lines, and I can insert a text. The reason I am inserting text is because I just want to point out that that anomaly there is my target zone. So I'm just going to click somewhere close and I'm going to type target zone. I'm going to select that one. I'm going to make it red. And I'm going to make it bigger. So I'm going to go 24. And I want the infill to be white. More colors. White. Okay, let's go. Put it there. And now I just need to insert a line that points out to the anomaly. Click Escape to leave that wizard, and I can just make that line. I can just make that line red. So I'm gonna go to Frame Properties, double click that one, and go to red and click OK. Okay, and it's going to be red. I can move it. That looks good. Okay, I'm happy with that. Maybe I can make this another color. I'll make it red just to highlight it. That's a bit more obvious. Once I'm happy with my map, of course you will play around with the size, with the colors until you are satisfied with that. But in my case, I like the way it looks, so I'm gonna go to map. We can either go to layout, not map, and go to output, or if you go to home, you also have the same options. In this case, let's do it the right way. Go to layout, output, and we can print it. We can create a PDF, or we can save it as an image. So I'm gonna create a PDF first. I'm gonna click PDF, and I'm just gonna accept the default, and I'm gonna go OK. And it's asking me where do I want to save it. So I'm just gonna go to desktop. I'm gonna call it Copper Hill Targets and click OK. And click OK. Now what that's sending to print. So I'm gonna click cancel. And I'm gonna try it again, but this time I'm gonna select the PDF. So I'm gonna go to PDF, and instead of just clicking OK, I'm gonna go PDF, and here we have preferences. So the one that I would like to highlight is we have this option called Layer PDF. And what this is doing, and I'm gonna show you in a minute, it gives you the possibility or the option to open a PDF, even if you don't have Discover MapInfo, and tick on and on the layers so you can better appreciate the data within your map. So I'm just gonna say yes, I want a layer PDF, add attributes, yes, you register the PDF, and they automatically open. And I want to use the same map units as my map. Sorry, the same units as my map. Let's click OK. And OK. Again, I'm gonna save it on my desktop and click OK. And OK. And what I get is a PDF with my map. This is how it looks. It has my legend, my frames, and my title block. Now I can also export this as an image. So I'm gonna go back to Discover. And in this case, I'm gonna select Save as an image. And again, where do I want to save it? On my desktop, Datamine training. Now we recommend at least 300 dpi to give it a good resolution. I'm gonna click Save. If I go to my Datamine training and I go here, I'm gonna get the same map, but this time it's an image. One thing about exporting as an image that some clients find useful is that when you export as an image, I'm gonna go back to the tool, I'm gonna select again. You can define the width and the height of your image. So if you're using these maps for reporting and you have a predefined area where you always space your map, let's say it's 15 by 30 or 10 by 15, whatever is the proportion of your map size, you can define that, and it's going to try its best to adjust your image to that sizing. I'm just gonna close that one, and I'm gonna go back and open the PDF that I exported. So I'm gonna go here and open with Adobe, and I'm gonna show you what I was speaking about when I mentioned the layering. So it opens the PDF this way, and if I turn off or I click that little eye, it's gonna turn off that window. In this case, it's the legend. If I go and open this, which is where all my layers are in terms of my map window, I can hide this one, I can hide that one, and the targets, I can hide the tenement, and I can zoom in just to appreciate things better. So anybody that has Adobe will be able to see this in a similar way that you will be playing around with the layers within MapInfo Discover. I believe that's everything. And now I open the floor for questions.